Let's go Falcons! There's been some news recently that has sparked a lot of discussion among fans, so we need to take a closer look at it. Be sure to hit the like button if you believe we'll ever make it to the Super Bowl. I know for some fans who are already in disbelief, this seems impossible, but I prefer to keep the dream alive. What do you believe? Let me know in the comments. Let's get to the news. The Atlanta Falcons offseason moves have sparked a lot of debate, and one of the biggest questions right now is whether they should still consider trading Bengals star pass rusher Trey Hendrickson. After signing Leonard Floyd, some might think the Falcons are done bolstering their pass rush. But is that really the case? Let's take a look and find out if Atlanta should still go all in on Hendrickson, or if it's time to hit the brakes. Now, let's start by acknowledging the obvious. The Falcons are in desperate need of pass rushers. That's been a problem for years. Atlanta ranked near the bottom of the league in sacks last season, and despite some promising talent, they haven't had a dominant edge rusher in forever. Enter Leonard Floyd. He's a solid addition. No doubt about it. He's been consistently producing around 8 to 10 sacks per season for the past 4 years, and while he's no longer at his Rams Super Bowl height, he's still a huge upgrade from what the Falcons had last season. But here's the thing, one change isn't enough. If Atlanta really wants to compete, they need more firepower on the defensive line. That brings us back to Trey Hendrickson. The Bengals reportedly want a first-round pick for him, but let's be real, teams asked for a lot more than they expect to get. Just look at the Seahawks. They originally wanted a first and third for a player and ended up settling for a second. Cincinnati might be playing the same game, but the bigger question is, do the Bengals actually want to move Hendrickson? He's coming off back-to-back 17.5 sack seasons. That's elite production. The Bengals are still trying to win, and trading away one of the best pass rushers in the NFL isn't exactly a recipe for success. The only way this deal happens is if Hendrickson forces their hand, maybe by threatening a holdout or making it clear he wants out. Even if he's available, should Atlanta pull the trigger? This is where things get tricky. The Falcons only have 5 picks in the draft, and giving up a second-rounder for a 31-year-old pass rusher isn't an easy call. If they were a playoff lock, it would make more sense. But right now, they're still figuring things out, especially with rookie quarterback Michael Penix Jr. If Penix looks like a star, then sure, go all in and make moves like this next offseason. But right now, is this really the time to give up valuable draft capital? Maybe not. That's not to say it wouldn't be tempting. Hendrickson is a game changer. He's not just another solid pass rusher. He's one of the best in the league. But the timing has to be right. If the Falcons trade for him and the team still isn't ready to compete, they might end up regretting it. Instead, they could use that second-round pick to find their own version of Hendrickson in the draft. After all, he was a third-round pick himself. Maybe the Falcons should focus on developing young talent instead of making a short-term move. But let's be clear, Floyd alone isn't enough. If the Falcons pass on Hendrickson, they absolutely need to get more pass rush help in the draft. And that brings us to another big storyline. Will Atlanta finally end their long-running drought of ignoring Georgia Bulldogs in the draft? This year's class has some intriguing options. Players like Michael Williams, Malaki Starks, and Jalen Walker have all been linked to the Falcons, and for good reason. Williams is a beast. He's got the size, speed, and athleticism to be a dominant edge rusher at the next level. His production last season wasn't as high as some hoped, but an early ankle injury might have played a role in that. Even so, his raw talent is undeniable. The big question is, will he be available at pick 15? If he is, he might be the perfect fit. Then there's Jalen Walker. He played more as an edge rusher for Georgia last year and racked up 6.5 sacks, but he might be more of an off-ball linebacker in the NFL. He could be a great addition. But is he really what the Falcons need? They already have Caden Ellis, and while adding depth is never a bad thing, they need a true edge rusher more than anything. Malaki Starks is another name to watch. The Georgia safety was electric at the Combine, and pairing him with Jesse Bates in Atlanta's secondary would be scary for opposing quarterbacks. But would drafting a safety really be the best move when the Falcons are still struggling so much with their pass rush? Probably not. This team needs sacks, plain and simple. So here's the million-dollar question. Should the Falcons trade for Hendrickson, or should they focus on drafting and developing their own pass rush talent? If the price drops, it's hard to say no to a player of Hendrickson's caliber. But if the Bengals stay firm on their high asking price, it might be smarter to keep the picks and take a shot on a younger guy. What do you think, Falcons fans? Should Atlanta go all in for Hendrickson, or is it better to stay patient and build through the draft? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and that's where things get even more complicated. If the Falcons do decide to pass on Hendrickson, they absolutely cannot afford to play him safely, and they need to be aggressive in finding the star. There's no sugarcoating it. Atlanta's pass rush has been flat-out bad for years. Since 2020, ranked dead last in sacks, and that's not just a minor issue. That's a fundamental problem if this team is a contender. The good news? This year's draft class is loaded with talented edge rushers. That's why the idea of giving up a second-round pick for a 31 starts to feel like a gamble. There's a real chance the Falcons can pass rusher at number 15. And if they play their cards right, they could come away with a steal in the well. So who? Well, we've already talked about Michael Williams. He's an elite pass rusher in the... There's another name that's picking up steam, Pierce Jr. If you're looking for explosiveness, this guy has it. He ran a sub 4.5 at his pro day, which is insane for a player his size. If he's there at 15, the Falcons have to at least consider him. They want to double down and grab another pass rusher later in the draft. That's where names from Washington and Adisa Isaac from Penn State come into play. Both have the potential to develop pass rushers, and if the Falcons don't take one in the first round, they absolutely need to grab one in the second. Now, let's say Atlanta does take a pass rusher at number 15. That still leaves the question, what do they do with their second pick? A lot of people are looking at cornerback as an option, and it makes sense. The Falcons' secondary is solid, but adding another young, talented corner to pair with A.J. Terrell could take this defense to another level. One name to watch? Alabama's Kool-Aid McKinstry. Yes, his name is incredible, but his game is even better. He's got the size and skill set to be a lockdown corner at the next level. If he's available in the second round, he'd be hard to pass up. Another option could be Kamari Lassiter from Georgia, who is tough, physical, and has that dog mentality that could fit well in Atlanta's defense. But let's get back to the main question. What's the best move for the Falcons right now? The answer depends on how aggressive they want to be. If they truly believe they're ready to compete for the playoffs this season, then maybe trading for Hendrickson makes sense. He's a proven player. There's no guessing with him. You know exactly what you're getting, a dominant pass rusher who can come in and make an immediate impact. But if they're thinking long-term, the draft is probably the better move. The Falcons aren't just one player away from contending. They still need to build out this roster, and that second-round pick could be crucial. If Michael Penix Jr. turns out to be the real deal, then next year might be the time to start making those win-now moves. But this offseason? It might be smarter to hold onto those picks and develop young talent. At the end of the day, this all comes down to patience. Are the Falcons willing to wait and build something special? Or do they take the risk and go all in on Hendrickson now? There's no right or wrong answer, just different philosophies on how to build a team. So now, I'm throwing it to you, Falcons fans. If you were in charge, would you make the move for Hendrickson? Or would you play it smart and build through the draft? Let me know in the comments. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the latest Falcons news. Go Falcons!